NASA started its search for extraterrestrial intelligence program, or SETI, in 1971, and for the past 50 years, more and more scientists have become convinced that intelligent life must have developed in other parts of the universe, and not just on Earth. Most of them, however, believe that due to the cosmic distances involved, chances are we will never meet them. But the truth is, we may already have. In this video, we will share with you 20 discoveries that shocked scientists who studied them. From unexplained phenomena, to ancient artifacts that defy logic, to strange objects of clear extraterrestrial origin. We will lay out the available information, as well as the official explanations, 20 objects, and one simple question. Are these devices evidence of extraterrestrial contact? We'll find out in this episode of Hidden Origins. Welcome. The development of better and more powerful radio telescopes has often provided puzzling data to scientists all over the world. One such mystery is what astronomers call FRBs, or fast radio bursts. These are sudden surges of noise emanating from a specific area of deep space. To this day, there is no satisfying explanation for these strange radio signals. Some astronomers believe these radio signals may be caused by a type of neutron star called a magnetar. Neutron stars are, simply put, the core of dead stars. They are very massive and have a strong magnetic field. Others have suggested that those sudden noises from deep space could also be the product of colliding neutron stars or merging white dwarfs. Akshay Suresh, a Cornell doctoral candidate in astronomy, has developed software that gathers data from periodic signals emanating from the core of our galaxy, the Milky Way. One of his first discoveries is that some patterns are repetitive, something that disqualifies the colliding stars hypothesis. These types of pulses are naturally emitted by stars called pulsars, but they're also used in human technology, such as radar. The repetitive nature of the radio signals recorded by Suresh points to a more exciting explanation. They are messages being transmitted over long distances by alien civilizations. How long will it take for astronomers to finally decipher these cosmic messages? In 1933, famed Egyptologist Sir Alan Gardner published a book with the discoveries recently made in the Temple of Seti, the first in Abydos. Seti was an important pharaoh during the New Kingdom of Egypt, approximately between 1294 BCE and 1279 BCE. Gardner, an expert in hieroglyphs, described with detail every inscription of the temple, including one puzzling arrangement of 3 hieroglyphs in the lintel of one of the main doors to the temple. Archaeologists at that time simply had no idea about what they were seeing. Almost 100 years later, the strange hieroglyphs start to make sense. They clearly resemble a helicopter, a fighter jet, and a tank. The fact that none of these military vehicles existed until very recently, more than 3,000 years after the temple was built, is proof that the ancient Egyptians were in contact with much superior beings. They called these beings gods and depicted frequently, including the vessels in which they were transported. As these hieroglyphs were known to all scientists before the invention of the helicopter and the fighter jet, there is no credible claim of this being a hoax. The mysterious hieroglyphs of Abydos sparked an intense debate in the scientific community, and Egyptologists found an interesting solution. A palimpsest is a composite drawing that is left after partially erasing an earlier writing in order to rewrite another thing on top of that. In this case, earlier hieroglyphs had been carved on the stone lintel, and they were replaced by nuance, with the result of making a composite figure that makes no sense. Still, why make a senseless hieroglyph? And how could we ignore this striking resemblance to modern vehicles? At around the same time Gardner extracted Abydos, miners in South Africa found a peculiar collection of rocks when they were digging for gold. They had never seen anything like that, and they knew it was not a natural occurrence. These small, almost perfect spheres were made of pyrophyllite, a soft rock with a greenish hue. Some of them had grooves around them, which at first made the discoverers think of human action. The problem is, the Klerksdorp spheres were found when digging a rock deposit that was 3 billion years old. Scientists have proposed that they are in fact a natural occurrence, and their formation was very similar to the way pearls develop in oysters. But even with natural pearls, they are almost never perfectly spherical, while Klerksdorp spheres are remarkably round and smooth. And many of them have these concentric grooves or layers that have convinced other experts that they had to be manufactured by an advanced civilization that visited Earth billions of years ago, long before humans roamed the planet. Ancient Hindu texts describe what they call Vimana as flying palaces or heavenly chariots. In Indian art, they are depicted as golden, shiny round vessels levitating over the ground. Interestingly, the tradition refers to the Vimana grazing, meaning that they sometimes flew close to the ground to feed from the fields, which could very well be their interpretation of a UFO abduction happening. Like the Egyptians, Hindu people of the 5th century BCE called the aliens traveling in the Vimana gods. In a 2013 leaked report from Russia's Foreign Intelligence Service, there is mention of an intriguing discovery made in Afghanistan. While doing a reconnaissance mission in a semi-deserted area, 8 American soldiers reportedly found strange signs at the entrance of a cave. The soldiers then went in to explore further, eventually coming across the remnants of an ancient Vimana. The Russian government demanded that information about this discovery was made public, but the President of the United States refused to give any information about the findings and the fate of these 8 soldiers. It is thought that the alien aircraft found in Afghanistan is currently being studied somewhere in the United States. German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig was appointed to the Baghdad Antiquities Administration in 1931. He took part in several successful excavations, but the most important of them was made when excavating an ancient Parthian settlement in the modern area of Kajit Rabu. What Koenig found were 3 objects that appeared to be related to each other: an iron rod, a copper tube, and a ceramic jug with an opening the same size as the copper tube. Koenig immediately understood that this jug had not been intended for drinking or transporting liquids. Instead, what he had found was a galvanic battery that was more than 2,000 years old. He hypothesized that, filled with an acid of some kind, it was indeed possible that the artifact could collect and store electricity. Soon after, Koenig became ill with blood poisoning and had to return to Germany, where he informed the scientific community of his findings. Later, experiments were conducted, and surprisingly, Koenig was right. Using a reconstruction of the Baghdad battery that was filled with citric acid from lemons and other fruits available in the area, University of North Carolina professor George Pasensky managed to generate up to 1 volt of energy. This is proof that we still have many things to learn about the technologies that the ancient peoples on Earth were exposed to. One of the most mysterious objects in our universe are the black holes. They are so massive that nothing escapes from their gravitational pull, not even light. Therefore, we cannot observe them as we would do with any object that reflected light. Research on black holes has improved in the last few years, and some of the scientific discoveries are chilling. For once, although it was traditionally thought that black holes were stationary, some of them are not. In fact, in 2022, the European Southern Observatory announced the discovery of a massive black hole in the Large Magellanic Cloud, a galaxy close to the Milky Way, that is, to 100,000 light-years from planet Earth. This black hole in particular seems to be coming in the direction of Earth at a speed of 18 miles per second. When it gets near, its gravity will pull the planet into its center, destroying all life on the planet. But according to scientists, this will not happen in the next 200,000 years. There is a much higher chance of destruction by other means. And thinking about cosmic destruction, could it be that some of the strange radio signals that we receive from space are warnings made to humankind about some danger we're facing from outer space? That is one of the possible explanations for a disturbing sighting that has recently been made in Antarctica. Antarctica remains the only continent not to be fully explored yet. Many areas of this enormous unforgiving mass of ice and snow are too dangerous to study. But thanks to satellite photography, scientists are able to see what is beyond the ice. Recent reports show images of an undisclosed location in a hard-to-reach part of Antarctica, where a strange object is seen. It is a large, elongated object which appears to have a trail leading to it, perhaps signs of dragging. These reports have not been made public, but some of the photographs emerged on social networks, sparking an intense debate. People agree that no human ship can reach such a remote place in Antarctica, so it must be an object of extraterrestrial origin. We hope to have more information in the near future about what happens in Antarctica. Palenque was the main city of the Mayan civilization. It is discovered and studied in the middle of the Chiapas jungle by Mexican archaeologist Alberto Ruz in the late 1940s. One of the most puzzling findings was a richly decorated stone sarcophagus, apparently belonging to an important leader. The sarcophagus was covered with mysterious images and hieroglyphs, and thanks to his extraordinary knowledge of the old Mayan scripture, Ruz was able to determine the name of the occupant as Pacal. The heavy lid of Pacal's sarcophagus depicts the deceased king lying on his back, adorned with jewels, a headdress, and a skirt. He appears to be emerging from a stylized monster, interpreted by scholars as a composite of a jaguar and a serpent, symbols for death and rebirth. His arms are outstretched, pointing towards the heavens, which was a typical theme in Mayan mythology. They believed the kings came from beyond the sky and returned there once they were dead. Perhaps this was not just a tale, judging by the rest of the carvings in Pacal's sarcophagus. Indeed, on the side of the stone box, there is a depiction of something that has been interpreted as a spaceship. Pacal is sitting in the central area, operating the controls of the ship. This is generally regarded as proof of ancient aliens visiting our planet and sometimes helping organize the people who live here. Mayans claim he lived 80 years before returning to heaven, a lifespan that doubled or tripled that of regular Mayans of the time. Other, still undeciphered hieroglyphs on the sarcophagus could point to the location where this ancient astronaut came from. Comets are mostly made of ice, dust, and rock. The nucleus, or core, is typically less than 10 miles wide, or 16 kilometers, and composed mainly of frozen gases like ammonia, methane, and water ice. When approaching the sun, the water evaporates, leaving a tail behind it. Astronomers are interested in comets because they're long-range transmitters of information about the earliest times of our universe. Comet CA 2014 UN-271 was discovered in 2014 by two amateur astronomers, Pietro Bernardinelli and Gary Bernstein. To this day, it remains the single largest comet to be discovered. Its diameter is 137 kilometers, more than 10 times the size of the largest known comets to that day. The average comet is 3 kilometers in diameter, or only 2 miles. However, what is important about the Bernardinelli-Bernstein comet is not its size, but that it is fast approaching our solar system. According to scientists that are plotting its trajectory, the closest the comet will pass off of the Earth is 1.5 billion kilometers. But some think this is enough to provoke grave consequences to our planet, similar to those of the so-called solar flares. Solar flares, also known as geomagnetic storms, happen all the time, but scientists have calculated that a big enough solar flare could forever change human life on Earth. On September 1, 1859, the English amateur astronomer Richard Carrington recorded an incredibly strong solar flare. People in Canada reported that the following day, it was as bright at night as during the day. Those few areas and houses that had electricity suffered the consequences, and the telegraph stopped working for one day. But what would happen if a similar or even stronger solar flare happened today? Every electrical transformer on Earth would fail at the same time due to overheating, and all communications would collapse as a consequence, meaning there would be no telephone communication, no satellite data, and no internet. Many people believe it wouldn't hurt to be offline for a day or two. But the truth is that without telecommunications, modern civilization would collapse and the supply chain for supermarkets and grocery stores would break, generating scarcity, looting, riots, and so on. The most frightening fact about this is that it may happen at any time without warning. In October 2017, several independent astronomers reported sightings of a previously unknown object passing through the skies. It was cigar-shaped, measured about 400 meters or a quarter of a mile, and was reddish in color. It was also reported that its brightness changed abruptly several times each night. 3 nights later, they lost sight of it. The University of Hawaii telescope Pan-STARRS was the first to study it seriously and labeled it Oumuamua, which in Hawaiian means scout or messenger from afar, because it was the first confirmed interstellar object ever detected passing through our solar system. They also declared that it was not a comet, but something else. Unfortunately, they were unable to conduct more experiments due to its high velocity. Scientists believe Oumuamua could have originated in the clash of 2 space objects, maybe a comet and an asteroid, which sent a small piece of the latter hurtling across space. But some scientists propose that it may indeed have an artificial origin. This prospect was published by astronomer Shmuel Bialy and Abraham Loeb in the academic journal Astrophysical Journal Letters. There, they hypothesized that Oumuamua may be a fully operational probe, purposely near Earth by an extraterrestrial civilization. Either that, or maybe space debris from highly advanced technical alien equipment. At 12:46 p.m. on November 30, 1954, a woman in Alabama was napping on a couch in Sylacauga, Alabama, when one fragment of a meteorite fell through her roof and landed on her. Her name wasn't Elizabeth Fowler Hodges. Thankfully, despite leaving a hole 3 feet wide or 91 centimeters on her roof, it only left a large bruise on her upper thigh and hand when it hit her. Hodges and her mother immediately called both the police and fire department. They also called the local news and gave some interviews that same night. After learning of the incident, personnel from the Maxwell Air Force Base presented themselves at the Hodges home and confiscated the meteorite. They gave it away willingly, but soon after, several calls came in, offering large sums of money for the meteorite. The Hodges replied that since it was not in their possession, they could not accept any money. After supposedly running some tests, the military returned the meteorite to the Hodges. Nobody knows what happened to the 4-billion-year-old fragment from the sky when it was studied in the Maxwell Air Force Base, but one astronomer calculated the odds of a meteorite hitting a human being and declared that there is a better chance of getting hit by a tornado, a bolt of lightning, and a hurricane all at the same time than what happened to an Elizabeth Fowler Hodges. Most people have heard of the Voynich manuscripts, one of the most mysterious and fascinating pieces of writing in history. What nobody knows, despite all the scientific studies made to the manuscripts, is who wrote it and why. It is a handwritten codex, that is, a bound book, filled with strange and colorful illustrations and text written in an unknown language and script. The illustrations depict diverse subjects including plants, herbs, astronomical objects, animals, and diagrams of unknown machines. So far, the text has not been deciphered. It was found that the script is alphabetic, resting on a unique alphabet comprised of 200 characters, but it's unlike any human script known to us, has been known since the 15th century, and over the years hundreds of experts have tried to decrypt it, but could not. As a result, it is believed now that it was not written by any human being, but by aliens. The images are divided into different categories, including many diagrams of the sky that depict stars unknown to man, and also plants and animals that are not found on Earth. Chemical analysis has proven, without a doubt, that the manuscript effectively dates from the 15th century. Some more centuries might pass before we're finally able to interpret the rich information the Voynich manuscript has for understanding alien life forms. Scuba divers exploring the wreckage of a ship off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera discovered in 1901 a cache which contained several apparent pieces of mechanical equipment. The ship was estimated to have sunk around the 2nd century BCE. After more than 2,000 years submerged in the salty waters, the complex mechanical parts were very deteriorated. But after careful restoration, scientists discovered that it was composed of gears, dials, and pointers. Archaeologists noticed that this mechanism could accurately calculate the positions of the moon and the sun, as well as the planets, and even predict eclipses. So sophisticated a mechanism was quite ahead of its time, and it was hypothesized that it was actually a gift from extraterrestrial beings who probably taught the Greeks how to use it. Today, the Antikythera mechanism is widely considered as the oldest example of an analog computer. But it remains a mystery why the ship sank and who is taking the mechanism where and for what purposes. In the 1930s, more than 300 perfect spheres of stone were found in Costa Rica. The locals thought they probably were concealing jewels, so they tried to break them apart. The government quickly learned of their existence and acted to protect them. Today, they are an important tourist attraction in Costa Rica. They are most likely made of gabbro, a very hard volcanic rock, which means it must have been extremely hard to carve them into perfect spheres. It has been estimated that they date between the years 500 and 1500, meaning they were already in America before Columbus came. No written records are left of the Daqui culture, the local inhabitants at the time the balls were created, so we have no information about their meaning and function. They're most likely astronomical markers, as many of the spheres were found in groups, sometimes arranged in lines or geometric patterns. Some believe the spheres may have been related to celestial observations or even served as forms of communications with beings from the sky. The Space Shuttle Endeavour completed 25 successful missions between 1992 and 2011. Its story is full of mysteries, but perhaps the most puzzling involves a photograph taken from inside the shuttle in 1998. The photograph shows a small, black, unidentified object that is flying close to the spaceship. As NASA scientists were unable to explain it, they called it the Black Knight. Pushed to make it a statement, NASA finally decided to go with a weak explanation. They said it was a piece of debris from the ship that an astronaut accidentally dropped during a spacewalk. Alternative theories propose that what this picture reveals is the existence of an alien probe transmitting information from Earth. A similar object had already been discovered in 1958 by astronomer Stephen Slayton when he was observing the Moon. At that moment, the United States government thought this could have been a Soviet spy satellite, but nothing was found. The mystery of the Black Knight has not yet been explained. The so-called Dropa stones or Dropa disks are a different subject, mainly because both the disks and the scientists who studied them have disappeared. In 1937, an archaeological expedition in northwest China discovered more than 700 granite discs engraved with very small hieroglyphs. The expedition, led by Chi Putei, dated them to 10,000 BCE. At the same site, they discovered skeletons with large heads and slender bodies. And what happened to be star maps drawn in flat rocks? The discs, now lost, were of varied sizes, some of them measuring up to 1 foot or 30 centimeters. They had 2 grooves, forming a double spiral that started in their center, and hieroglyphs so small that they could only be seen through a magnifying glass. These discs remained one of the most puzzling archaeological enigmas of the 20th century until 30 years later. A Chinese scholar by the name of Samum Nui published in an academic journal his decryption of the hieroglyphs. The text was surprising to say the least. The discs told the story of the Dropa race of aliens who arrived on Earth in peace, but were viciously persecuted by the local human inhabitants. Samum Nui's findings were met with skepticism and anger, and he was forced into exile in Japan, where he died shortly after. Later, explorers of the area reported that the indigenous people claimed that their ancestors came from a planet in the constellation of Sirius. This object is a controversial artifact. A Polish professor named Lolodov acquired the plate during a visit to Nepal. The seller told him it belonged to an ancient race that populated the area called Dropa, and like the Dropa discs, it is covered in hieroglyphs and a double spiral. But it also has an intriguing depiction of what appears to be an alien creature and strange animals. In the center of the plate, a sun is drawn, perhaps pictured as a reminder of where they came from. Nothing else was known about this plate, and for many years, it was thought to be a hoax until in the 1960s, news of the Dropa discs began to circulate around the scientific community, confirming what the black market dealer had told Lolodov. There is still a lot we do not know about deep space. Astronomers have calculated that 85% of the known universe is comprised of dark matter, which means it's invisible to us. Only recently, 150,000 large asteroids that had remained hidden from our telescopes were identified. Scientists need to plot their trajectory, analyze their components, and calculate their velocity in order to assess whether they are a danger to our planet or not. Many of such asteroids are known as planet killers because if they collide with a planet the size of Earth, life on that planet would be wiped out almost in no time. So far, the trajectories of 33,000 asteroids have been plotted, and scientists at NASA and the European Space Agency are monitoring them to make sure that they're not hurling through space directly toward Earth. One question remains unanswered. If they knew that one asteroid could hit the Earth, and they didn't know how to stop it, would they still inform the public? The universe is an ever-changing system. Hundreds of millions of objects of different sizes are flung across space at incredible speeds, and some of them are bound to collide eventually. Fortunately for us, this will not happen anytime soon. The Milky Way is the name the ancient Greeks gave the white band in the sky, comprised of thousands of visible stars. Earth is located near the center of this galaxy, and the galaxy of Andromeda is relatively close at 2.5 million light-years. What scientists predicted a few years ago is that Andromeda is on a collision course with the Milky Way, a crash that is bound to happen in around 4 billion years. Scientists know exactly what happens when galaxies collide. They call this process the galactic ballet, as the two galaxies start to orbit each other until they become one entirely new galaxy. Stars are formed during this period, and life on the nearby planets is destined to perish. It's been hypothesized that the visitors from outer space that have reached Earth were actually fleeing from a collapsing planet or galaxy. There are hundreds of findings that support the claim that we are not alone in the universe. What they show is that our planet has been visited throughout its history by several different extraterrestrial races, some out of curiosity, others searching for a new place to establish themselves, or simply to help the intelligent life on Earth. Scientists were once absolutely skeptical about the existence of aliens are starting to embrace this, not just as a possibility, but a certainty. With their knowledge and research capacity, maybe one day we will find the truth about extraterrestrial life forms. But only if scientists can keep an open mind when researching into the mysteries of the universe. Now, go ahead and like this video, subscribe to the channel, and watch some of our related videos on the screen right now. Keep your minds open, and until we meet again.